Let's imagine this scene. We are in ancient India. There's a king Balhait, very powerful, but consumed by a terrible grief.
Yes, the loss of his son in battle, right? Something that had annihilated him.
Exactly. Inconsolable. Nothing could move him. Until one day. Well, a character a bit different from usual appears at court.
Sissa Bender, a Brahmin, so from the intellectual priestly caste.
Precisely him. And he doesn't arrive with, what do I know, gold, jewels. No. He brings a wooden tablet.
The famous chessboard, or rather its ancestor, 64 squares.
Yes, with pieces. It was Chaturanga, the ancestor of chess. Today our source is a very interesting text that tells this very story, the legend of Sissa.
The idea is to understand the wisdom behind it. Fascinating aspect here is how the game was presented from the start as a metaphor. It's not just a pastime.
Ah, interesting. That is.
Well, Sissa proposes it as a mirror of life, a model for strategy, for command, and immediately emphasizes a point, the importance of sacrifice.
So almost a lesson disguised as a game.
Exactly. Perhaps to help the king process that very pain. Who knows?
And the king agrees. I imagine he was curious, or perhaps just desperate.
He accepts. And Sissa begins to teach him the rules, how the pieces move, the pawns, the elephants, knights, the minister who is a strong piece, and the king himself.
The key piece, but with limited movements. Of course. And how did the game go? The text hints at a particular moment, it seems to me.
Yes, there's a crucial moment. At a certain point, Sissa makes a move that takes the king by surprise.
Namely,
he sacrifices his strongest piece after the king, the minister, precisely, voluntarily.
Ah, and the king, who knew a lot about battles, what does he think?
A mistake.
Exactly. He sees it as a heavy loss, almost a misstep from a strategic point of view. He doesn't understand its immediate meaning.
And that's where the real lesson comes in, I imagine.
Right here.
Sissa explains that, well, as in war or in government, sometimes you have to lose something precious to gain a greater advantage or to save the king, who then represents the entire kingdom.
I understand.
If we connect this to the general picture, we see how the move in the game becomes a key to interpreting the king's grief.
In what sense?
Well, the death of the prince, no longer seen just as a senseless tragedy, but as a necessary sacrifice, perhaps to save the kingdom. An heroic act.
It changes the whole perspective. It doesn't take away the pain, obviously, but it gives it meaning, a place in a broader design.
Exactly. It must have been a very strong moment for Balhait. The text speaks of emotion, of tears that were no longer just despair.
But understanding, as if the fog had lifted.
Exactly. He regains clarity, gratitude, and at that point, he wants to reward Sissa. He tells him to ask for whatever he wants. Gold, lands, power, everything.
And this is where it gets really interesting. The mathematical part of the legend arrives, the most famous one, right?
Exactly. Sissa's request surprises everyone again.
What does he ask for?
He asks for grain, but in a particular way.
Tell me.
1 grain for the first square of the chessboard, 2 for the second, 4 for the third, 8 for the fourth, and so on, doubling at each square.
Up to the 64th.
Yes, at first the king, well, almost laughs. Such a modest request, he thinks. Perhaps he's a bit disappointed by the Brahmin's humility.
He immediately orders to satisfy him, I imagine.
Immediately. But here's the catch, as they say. The humility was only apparent. The court mathematicians start doing the calculations.
And realize it's a problem.
A huge problem. The total number of grains becomes, we're talking about over 18, followed by 18 zeros.
18 million billion billion. An insane number.
Exactly. 18 million billion grains. A quantity that, the kingdom would not have been able to produce even in centuries. Perhaps not even the whole world.
Wow, the king, I imagine, was left speechless.
Astonished not only by the number itself, but by Sissa's incredible intelligence. And this raises an important question about the perception of value and the hidden power in numbers.
Right, that exponential growth that we struggle to understand.
Exactly. We underestimate how small things, added or multiplied, can become immense.
So what does all this mean? In the end, what are the main messages that this legend leaves us according to the source?
Well, the text emphasizes several. First of all, that every piece counts, even the smallest. The pawn has its value, its role.
As in life, one might say.
Precisely so. Then the importance of long-term vision. Strategy beats immediate brute force.
And the theme of sacrifice that returns.
Certainly. Sacrifice and suffering that, if understood, can lead to winsome, to a deeper victory. And finally, the idea that intelligence, cunning ultimately prevail over blind force.
A truly rich story. The game as a mirror. Mathematics revealing hidden truths. Very fascinating.
Very. And perhaps the final reflection it leaves us with is precisely an invitation to look beyond appearances. One wonders how often one fails to grasp the scope of what appears small or modest at first.
Like a grain of wheat.
Or a move on the chessboard. Or a simple idea that perhaps holds enormous potential, capable of changing everything. It's up to us to be able to see it.